The galaxy looked peaceful that morning, unaware that history was about to change forever. Around a quiet blue planet, small trading ships floated like silver fish in sunlight. Space was calm, the stars soft and distant. On the orbital station above the planet, Commander Rel watched her screens showing normal traffic. Miners, transports, and patrols. Nothing strange until one small reading blinked red on the edge of the system. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't even a signal. It was something pressing against the fabric of space itself. She leaned forward. "Confirm that distortion," she ordered. The technician beside her swallowed hard. "Ma'am, it's real." Spacefold detected. "It's big." Far away, space began to ripple. It was as if a giant hand had pushed against a curtain, bending stars out of line. Every sensor on the station screamed warnings. Then from the center of that distortion, something emerged slowly, massive, silver-white, and silent. The light from the nearby star hit its surface and spread in bright blue reflections. The hull looked like a floating mountain carved from steel and ice. The crew on every ship froze as the unknown craft came into full view. No one had ever seen anything like it. The ship had no alien curves, no known insignia. Its surface carried scars as if it had survived battles far beyond imagination. Rows of armored plating shimmered, and huge engines at the back glowed faintly blue, steady but powerful. When it turned slightly, its size became clear. It was larger than any ship in their database, big enough to cast a shadow across the orbit of a moon. It moved with perfect control, quiet and confident like a living creature that feared nothing. "Identify it," Commander Rel demanded. Dozens of scanners tried to read the ship's signature. The result came seconds later. "Origin, Sol System. Classification unknown. Possible match, humanity." The word hit the control room like thunder. Humanity. The forgotten name. A species that had vanished from galactic charts centuries ago. Some said they had destroyed themselves. Others whispered they had gone beyond known space. Whatever the truth, no one expected them to return. And definitely not like this. The communication officer looked pale. "Ma'am, it's transmitting something." "Put it through," Rel said. A clear voice filled the room, calm and steady. "This is Commander Mara Ikeda of the United Earth vessel Titanus. We come in peace. Requesting diplomatic contact." Her tone was polite, but beneath the calm there was power, like a thunderstorm hiding behind clear skies. Around the galaxy, news spread faster than light. The first human ship seen in generations had appeared, a Titan-class warship. Some called it a myth, a design so advanced it was said to rival entire fleets. Now it was real, right there, orbiting a peaceful world. On the planet's surface, people gathered in streets looking up. The massive warship reflected sunlight, creating a soft halo that could be seen from the ground. Children pointed at the sky while parents whispered in disbelief. The Titan's presence was not aggressive, but its sheer size carried weight. Every species that had once underestimated humanity now watched the live broadcast in silence. Inside the Titan-class warship, Commander Mara stood before a holographic map showing the nearby ships and stations. Her crew was calm, trained for this. "No hostile readings?" she asked. "None, Commander. They're watching, afraid to move." "Good," Mara replied. "Let them see. Let them remember who we are." Her words carried no arrogance, only purpose. The ship had traveled years through silent space to reach this point. They had come to reintroduce humanity not as conquerors, but as survivors who still believed in their place among the stars. Back on the orbital station, Commander Rel spoke quietly to her team. "Send a response. Tell them we accept their communication. Tell them. Welcome." Her voice trembled slightly. She had studied galactic war history, had seen the stories of Earth's ancient battles, how humans had turned the tide in wars they were never meant to survive. Seeing one of their ships in real life felt like seeing a legend wake up. The holographic screen flickered. Commander Mara's image appeared, standing tall in a simple black uniform. Her face was calm, her eyes sharp. Behind her, the ship's bridge glowed in soft blue light. "Thank you for your welcome," she said. "We mean no harm, but we do not hide who we are. Humanity stands ready to speak, to trade, to learn, to protect those who cannot protect themselves." Those words made the room fall silent again. There was no threat, yet every listener felt the weight behind them. The human commander's tone was that of someone who had seen too much loss and refused to repeat it. Then, Just as the galaxy began to take a breath of relief, the unexpected happened. A sensor alarm blared through the control deck. Another distortion appeared near the system's edge, larger this time and violent. "New contact," the sensor officer shouted. "Multiple ships inbound, unknown signature." On board the Titan, Mara's eyes narrowed. "Raise shields," she said calmly. The stars outside shifted as the warship's armor came alive, layers sliding and locking like a steel bloom. Blue energy flowed through the hull. "We hold fire unless fired upon." The alien ships emerged, dark, fast, and armed. Whoever they were, they hadn't come in peace. Commander Rel froze as her screens filled with warning lights. She looked at the Titan's calm silhouette, glowing like a giant watching over them. "Gods help us," she whispered. "They're not ready for this." As the enemy fleet closed in, the Titan-class warship slowly turned, its thrusters igniting like the sunrise over steel oceans. For the first time, the galaxy would witness what humanity had built in the dark years of silence, and no one, not even the bravest, was ready for what came next. The enemy fleet came in fast, scattering light across the void like a storm of knives. Every ship burned with red engine trails and flashing weapon ports. There were dozens, maybe more, each moving with wild, uneven patterns that made them hard to track. On the orbital station, alarms screamed through every corridor. The people of that world had known peace for decades, but peace was fragile now. Commander Rel gripped the rail beside her chair, her heart beating so hard she could feel it in her throat. "Identify them," she ordered. "Who are they?" The answer came moments later. Not registered with the Galactic Council? Pirate war bands? Or something worse? Mara Ikeda watched from the bridge of the Titan as those ships formed a dark cloud in the distance. Their formation was sloppy, desperate, like predators fighting each other for the first bite. She had seen that kind of movement before, opportunists, not soldiers. Her first officer, Lieutenant Grant, stood beside her. "They're not responding to hails," he said. "They're charging weapons." Mara's voice stayed calm. "Maintain shields. Do not engage unless they fire first." The Titan held its place, silent and unmoving, a mountain in orbit. The pirates, or whatever they were, didn't seem to care. They had seen a large ship appear suddenly near a prosperous world, and they wanted a prize. Their leader, a brute creature with gray scales and 4 yellow eyes, leaned over his cracked console. "That thing's big, but it's one ship," he snarled. "Target the station first. Once they panic, we take what's left." On the station, Commander Rel's team tried to warn them off, but their signals were ignored. Energy readings flared. The first volley came, a dozen plasma bursts racing toward the blue planet and its defense ring. Rel's voice cracked. "Impact in 8 seconds. Then space turned gold. A wall of shimmering light unfolded around the Titan like a glass ocean bending the stars. The incoming plasma fire hit it and vanished without a trace, leaving ripples of blue energy spreading outward. The entire galaxy watched through surveillance drones as the Titan absorbed the assault without moving an inch. On the bridge, Lieutenant Grant smiled slightly. "They just made their first mistake." Mara nodded. "Now they learn." The warship's hull shifted. Panels along the side slid open with soft mechanical sounds, revealing arrays of glowing blue lenses. Each one rotated into position, locking on the enemy fleet. The Titan didn't roar. It didn't even hum. It simply released light, clean white-blue beams that crossed the void faster than thought. The first pirate ship vanished, its hull sliced through from bow to stern by a silent streak of plasma. The second exploded as its ammunition cooked off. The rest scattered, trying to break formation. But the Titan's targeting systems moved like an artist painting a masterpiece, precise, patient, and merciless. Within 20 seconds, half the attacking fleet was gone. The remaining ships turned to flee. Mara did not chase them. She lowered her hand. "Stand down, weapons. Let them go. Let the galaxy see that we defend, not conquer." Her crew obeyed without question. The bridge light softened again. The Titan drifted in the golden sunlight, quiet and proud, its guns cooling under a soft halo of ion haze. On the station, silence filled every room. No one spoke for several seconds. Then Commander Rel whispered, "By the stars. One ship did all that?" Her voice spread through every open comm channel, echoed by civilians and soldiers across the system. They all stared at the massive white ship floating peacefully above them, its reflection shining in the planet's oceans. For the first time in generations, they understood why humans had once been feared and respected in equal measure. Down on the surface, people gathered in parks, on rooftops, near sea platforms, watching the broadcast projected in the sky. Children cheered, thinking they had been saved by a legend. Old veterans wept, remembering stories from their youth about a species that refused to die quietly. Inside the Titan, Commander Mara stood with her crew, listening to the quiet hum of the ship's heart. "Damage report," she said. "Minor shield loss. All systems green. And civilian casualties? None reported." The station took minor stress from the shockwave. Mara nodded, her face calm. "Good. Send word to the station that they're safe. We'll remain here for 24 hours in defensive orbit. No one harms this world while we're present." Her words carried across every frequency. On the other side, Commander Rel felt her throat tighten. "Copy that, Titanus. You have our gratitude. You saved millions of lives today." Mara's tone stayed measured. "We didn't save them. We reminded the stars that humanity still stands." As those words spread, ships from neighboring systems began to arrive, some carrying diplomats, others filled with curiosity. The sight of the Titan had drawn every major power's attention. The Galactic Council sent urgent messages, demanding to know why a human warship, believed extinct, had appeared without warning. Rumors spread faster than facts. Some said the humans had built an entire new fleet hidden beyond mapped space. Others believed they had returned only to reclaim what once was theirs. Inside her private quarters, Mara looked at a small screen showing old Earth images, forests, oceans, and a single line of text, "Remember who we were." She whispered softly, "They will." Back on the station, Vari, the old analyst, sat at his console, replaying footage of the Titan's defense. He zoomed in on the beam arrays, the power levels, the formation of the energy shield. "This is not just war design," he murmured. "This is balance. They've learned to control power, not be consumed by it." He turned to his commander. "Do you understand what this means, Rel? They're not coming back as soldiers. They're coming back as guardians." But before she could reply, a new signal flashed across his monitor. It wasn't from the pirates. It wasn't even from the nearby systems. It came from deep space, an encrypted human transmission bouncing off old relay satellites thought to be dead. Vari's voice trembled. "Commander, there's more of them." Rel frowned. "How many?" He looked up, his four eyes wide. "Hundreds, maybe thousands, all Titan-class signatures." Far above, the Titan's hull shimmered as new light spread across its spine. The human crew received the same transmission. Mara closed her eyes and smiled faintly. "So, the fleet answers." For the first time in centuries, the galaxy realized something terrifying and magnificent. Humanity had not vanished. Humanity had simply been waiting, watching, building, preparing for the moment they would return. And now the stars themselves trembled at what was coming next. The galaxy stayed silent after that day. News of the Titan spread through trade routes and military channels faster than any official report. Every planet, every council, every navy, everyone was talking about humanity again. Old myths returned to life, old fears rekindled. Some called them saviors, others whispered the word deathworlders like a curse that had been buried too long. But for the people on that blue planet, the Titan had become something else. A guardian in orbit, shining softly like a star that refused to set. On board the Titan, the crew continued their watch in silence. Commander Mara Ikeda stood near the observation window, looking down at the planet's pale clouds and glittering oceans. She had seen many worlds, but this one felt special, maybe because it had been the first to see them again, or maybe because the people here had not fired, not panicked, not run. They had looked up with awe, not anger. That mattered to her. Her first officer, Grant, approached with a datapad. "Council transmissions are still coming in. They're demanding an explanation for our presence in this sector." Mara gave a quiet smile. "Let them demand. They never asked where we went when we disappeared. Now they'll have to ask why we came back." "Are we going to reply?" Grant asked. "Not yet," Mara said. "They'll come to us soon enough." Meanwhile, on the orbital station, Commander Rel faced a storm of questions. Every network wanted interviews. Every politician wanted statements. The people wanted to know if the humans were staying or leaving. She didn't have the answers. Vari, the old analyst, sat beside her, still watching the Titan through the station's main viewport. You realize, he said softly, that ship could conquer this system alone if it wanted to. Rel nodded. Yes, and that's why it's terrifying that they don't. Down on the surface, a delegation prepared to ascend. Scientists, diplomats, historians, even a few security officers. They were chosen not for strength, but for calm minds. The galaxy needed understanding, not war. When the shuttle lifted from the planet's surface and climbed toward the waiting Titan, millions watched live across dozens of systems. It wasn't just a meeting. It was the first contact with humanity in nearly 200 years. Inside the Titan's hangar bay, white lights glowed along the floor. The humans waited, uniformed, silent, eyes sharp. The delegation stepped out slowly, some trembling, some trying to hide it. The air inside felt crisp and clean, the faint hum of machinery echoing like a heartbeat. Commander Mara approached, her boots tapping softly on metal. "Welcome aboard the Titanus," she said. Her tone was formal, calm, but there was warmth in her eyes. "We appreciate your willingness to meet us in person." The lead diplomat, a pale, green-skinned Arvani named Lether, bowed slightly. "We thank you for sparing our world, Commander. You could have destroyed those raiders easily." Mara looked at him with quiet strength. "Power means nothing if it's only used to destroy. We came to show you that humanity has learned from its past." They were escorted into a large observation chamber. It was bright, minimalist, filled with holographic stars forming a living map of known space. At its center was a glowing sphere, the current Galactic Council territory. Around it, countless smaller points marked trade routes, neutral zones, and unknown regions. But on the far edge, a massive cluster of stars blinked in deep red. Lether frowned. "Those systems aren't on our maps." Mara folded her arms. "They're on ours. Those are human colonies." The delegation went silent. Humanity had not only survived, they had expanded beyond charted space. Lether looked at the map again, his throat tightening. "That's impossible. We believed your kind destroyed itself." Mara turned slowly toward him. "That's what the Council wanted everyone to believe. But while they debated, we built. While they looked inward, we looked outward. We didn't disappear, Lether. We grew." Her words carried no arrogance, only truth. The kind of truth that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. Back on the station, Vari received encrypted data, images from deep space relays. Massive structures appeared on his screen. Shipyards orbiting gas giants, city-sized engines burning quietly in the dark, and thousands of Titan-class vessels lined like guardians of the void. His hands trembled. "They have an empire," he whispered. "A hidden empire." On the Titan, Lether tried to stay composed. "If you've built all this, what do you want from us now?" Mara's gaze softened. "Not tribute, not fear. Just the truth. When humanity fell from the Council, no one came to help. Our worlds burned, our people starved, and the galaxy turned away. We don't seek revenge, only recognition. The truth must return to the record. The Council erased us from history. We came back to write our name again." Lether hesitated. "And if the Council refuses?" Mara's eyes met his with calm certainty. "Then they will remember anyway." There was silence. Outside, the stars seemed to pulse faintly against the ship's hull. The delegation exchanged uncertain looks. None of them had expected humanity's return to be peaceful, yet the calm confidence of the Titan's crew was more unsettling than any threat. Suddenly, the ship's internal lights dimmed. A deep tone echoed through the halls, an alert signal, soft but firm. A human officer appeared in the doorway. "Commander, we're detecting multiple warp signatures entering the system." Mara's calm never broke. "Show me." The wall map expanded. New signatures appeared, Council warships, dozens of them arranged in tight formation. They had arrived faster than expected, maybe out of fear, maybe out of pride. Lether turned pale. They wouldn't attack. Not here. Mara didn't look away from the map. They might not fire first, but they didn't come to talk. Her voice was quiet but steady. "Escort our guests back to their shuttle safely." Lether protested. "Wait, Commander, if you fight them now..." "We won't fire first," Mara said. "But we won't run either." The delegation was escorted away. As their shuttle left the hangar, the Titan began to move, slowly rotating toward the incoming fleet. The vast ship's engines flared, bathing the void in pale blue light. The planet below reflected that glow, as if watching the unfolding storm. In the Council fleet, the Admiral gave a single order. "Maintain formation. Prepare warning shots. His voice shook slightly. He had read the old reports, what humanity had done in the past when cornered. On the Titan's bridge, Mara stood in silence. Her hands rested on the console as she looked at the dozens of enemy markers approaching. Her crew waited for her word. She breathed deeply. "Signal them," she said. "Tell them this system is under our protection. Tell them humanity has returned and we are not their enemy." The comms officer hesitated. "And if they don't listen?" Mara's lips curved slightly, almost like a smile. "Then they will listen to the silence that follows." The void outside shimmered with tension, stars flickering between the crosshairs of history. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy faced the same truth it had buried long ago. Humans were back, and they had come prepared. The Council fleet arrived like a wall of steel and arrogance. Hundreds of ships shimmered into the system, forming precise geometric lines that stretched across the dark. Their banners glowed red and white, symbols of unity forged through fear. To most galaxies, the Council was law, untouchable, unshakable. But now, for the first time in generations, that illusion stood face to face with something older, colder, and far more patient. Humanity, on the bridge of the Titan. Commander Mara Ikeda watched the holographic map fill with red dots. Her ship's sensors painted the incoming vessels in detail: battle cruisers, interceptors, carriers, all armed and advancing. Grant leaned closer to the tactical display. "That's the 3rd Galactic Defense Fleet," he murmured. "They sent their best." Mara's gaze stayed calm. "Good. The best deserve to see the truth first." Outside, the Titan floated motionless, its bright hull catching the sunlight like a silent monument. It didn't look like a warship preparing for battle. It looked like a judgment waiting to be written. The Council Admiral, a silver-skinned Falari named Audrin, appeared on open comms. His voice was smooth, commanding, and full of quiet threat. "Unidentified human vessel, this is Admiral Audrin of the Galactic Defense. You are in restricted territory. Power down all systems and prepare to be boarded." Mara didn't answer immediately. The bridge was still, the air thick with quiet tension. When she finally spoke, her tone was soft but carried across the stars. "Admiral Audrin, this is Commander Mara Ikeda of the United Earth vessel Titanus. We do not recognize your authority to claim ownership of any star that predates your Council's founding. This system was neutral long before you arrived." Audrin's calm cracked slightly. "You have no standing. Humanity was declared extinct 2 centuries ago," Grant muttered. "And yet here we are." Mara's eyes didn't waver. "Then perhaps your history books were wrong. Or perhaps the truth was too heavy for them to carry." There was a pause, long, cold, and stretching across the void. Then the Council fleet began to move. Their ships spread out into an arc formation encircling the Titan. Power readings spiked across every frequency. "Shields rising," Grant reported. "Weapons charging." "They're serious," Mara turned to her crew. "Hold your ground. Do not return fire unless ordered." The voice of Admiral Audrin returned, sharper this time. "You are surrounded. This is your final warning." Mara leaned forward slightly. "So this is how the Council greets those who return from the dark, by aiming guns at them." Her words were steady, but there was something colder in her eyes now. "You speak of peace while preparing for war. You call us extinct, yet fear what one ship represents. Tell me, Admiral, which of us should be afraid?" Before Audrin could respond, a burst of static filled the comm channel. Then faintly another voice spoke, female, crisp, unmistakably human. "This is the UEV Resolute. Titanus, we are with you." The entire bridge froze. Grant looked at the readings, disbelief spreading across his face. "Another Titan?" "Inbound from the outer orbit." Then another voice came through. "This is the Horizon. Standing by for orders." A third followed. "Vigilant reporting." "We are here, Commander." Outside the window, blue lights flickered in the far reaches of the system. One by one, colossal shapes began to emerge from folded space. Massive white ships, identical in design and scale to the Titan, materialized like ghosts in sunlight. 10, then 20, then hundreds. Each one glowed softly, engines flaring with quiet power. The Council's sensors went wild. Admiral Audrin's voice faltered. "Impossible. There can't be this many." Mara stood tall, her reflection shimmering against the window's light. "You declared us extinct," she said quietly. "You were wrong." On the station, Commander Rel and Vari watched the spectacle unfold. Vari whispered, "They've been waiting all this time. Hiding an entire fleet." Rel's voice trembled with awe. "Not hiding, watching. The Titan fleet formed in perfect silence, no signals, no boasting, no chaos. Their formation was flawless, years of discipline written in motion. The stars themselves seemed dimmer against the radiant white of their hulls. Each ship bore the same insignia, a stylized Earth, half-shadowed, half-lit. The return of humanity was not loud, it was inevitable. Admiral Audrin's orders broke through the noise. All ships, hold positions. Do not engage without command authorization. But panic was already spreading among the lower ranks. Some of his captains argued for retreat. Others wanted to fire preemptively. The fleet's tight formation wavered as fear seeped through even the most disciplined crews. Mara watched their hesitation. They came expecting one ship, she said. They weren't ready for a family. Grant smiled faintly, pride flickering behind his calm. Orders, Commander? None, Mara replied. We don't start wars. We end them before they begin. She opened a direct channel to Audrin. Admiral, look around you. Humanity does not seek to conquer. We've built, we've learned, and we've come to ensure the same peace your council only pretends to keep. We do not kneel. We do not vanish. But we will protect those who cannot defend themselves, no matter whose space they live in. Audrin stared at the feed, his polished composure cracking further. Behind him, aides whispered frantic messages about power imbalances, about retreat protocols, about what this meant for the council's control. For the first time in his career, he didn't know what to say. The fleet around him began to back away little by little. The Titan ships held position, silent, unthreatening yet unstoppable. The balance of power had shifted without a single shot. Every world watching the broadcast knew it. Every government that had mocked humanity felt a shiver run down its spine. On the surface of the planet below, the people watched the white shapes drift through the sky, reflecting the sun like silver angels. The children who had cheered for one ship now cried out in wonder as hundreds appeared. Across the galaxy, the word human no longer meant myth. It meant power and mercy. On the bridge, Grant turned to Mara quietly. So what happens now? Mara looked out into the vast field of returning ships. Now we speak, not just for ourselves, but for every world that's been silenced by fear. We remind them that the galaxy doesn't belong to rulers or councils. It belongs to those who still have hope. Her voice softened almost to a whisper. And if they try to take that away again... She looked out at the endless formation of glowing warships, their reflections painting her face in blue light. Then the Titans will rise together. Beyond the fleet, a faint pulse flickered in deep space, an encrypted signal too old for most scanners to decode. Mara recognized it instantly. A human distress beacon. One of the first ever made, still active somewhere far beyond known territory. She stared at it in silence for a long moment. There are still voices out there, she said. Still lost, Grant nodded slowly. Then I suppose our journey isn't over. Mara smiled faintly. It's only just begun. And as the Titan fleet turned its formation toward the distant signal, the galaxy watched in awed silence, realizing that the age of humanity had not ended. It had only been waiting to begin again. The Titan fleet moved together, cutting through the starlight like a quiet storm. Hundreds of massive white warships, each glowing with the same pale blue energy, drifted into formation. They were silent, disciplined, and terrifyingly beautiful. The galaxy had seen large fleets before, but nothing like this. These ships moved with perfect synchronization, as if controlled by one will. No signals leaked, no chatter filled the air, only the low hum of engines older than any council flagship. Commander Mara Ikeda stood at the heart of the Titan's bridge, her eyes fixed on the faint beacon pulsing across the dark. The distress signal they had found came from beyond known territory, an old human code from the first Exodus era. Somewhere out there, something or someone was still calling for help. She felt the weight of that call deep in her chest. Plot a course, she said softly. We follow the signal. Grant tapped his console, eyes narrowing at the readings. Coordinates confirmed. But Commander, it's leading us into the dead sector. No trade, no comms, no light for 100 years. The council banned travel there. Mara gave a calm nod, which means they're hiding something. As the Titan fleet turned toward the uncharted void, council ships followed at a distance. They were too afraid to attack, yet too curious to retreat. Every world with a telescope watched the same sight, the long-lost humans, moving like ghosts into the darkness that others feared to enter. Back on the orbital station, Commander Rel and Vari observed the data feeds. "They're heading straight into the dead sector," Rel said, her tone half awe, half dread. Vari leaned forward, voice low. "There are stories about that region. Entire fleets went missing there. The Council called it unstable space, but..." He hesitated, his four eyes narrowing. "What if they just didn't want anyone to find what's inside?" The Titan fleet crossed the threshold of the dead sector. Stars vanished. The sky turned a deep gray, as if even light had decided not to enter. Static crawled over their comms, warping the air with strange echoes. Energy spikes flickered across sensors, brief, sharp, unnatural. "Gravitational waves ahead," Grant reported. "They're not natural." Mara's expression hardened. "Keep going. Shields at full." As they advanced, a shadow began to take shape in the distance. A dark sphere, massive and faintly rotating. Its surface shimmered with fragments of metal and light, like shattered ships fused into its crust. The distress signal grew louder, echoing in every frequency. Grant whispered, "That's not a planet." "It's a construct." Mara studied the readings. "A Dyson shell fragment," she said. "Old human tech. Very old." Her words stunned the bridge crew. Dyson structures were theoretical. Massive rings built around stars to harvest their energy. No one had ever built one successfully, at least not in recorded history. "So we did it," Grant murmured. "Long before the Council even knew how to fly." The fleet slowed, drifting closer. Giant panels hung broken in space, glowing faintly with ancient power. Between them floated wrecks of unknown design, some alien, some human. "We're picking up life signs," said the science officer. Faint but real. "Inside the structure," Mara stared at the screen. "Get us close enough to send a shuttle." Hours later, a small landing craft detached from the Titan, gliding through the fog of debris. When it reached the fractured surface, the crew saw ruins, massive halls silent and cold. Frozen statues of machinery stood like giants that had fallen asleep. Then through a cracked corridor they found it, a single stasis pod still active, lights blinking weakly. Inside lay a man. Human. Grant's voice trembled through the comms. "He's alive. Biometrics stable. Estimated cryo duration, 271 years. The bridge went silent. Mara closed her eyes for a moment. "Bring him aboard." When the shuttle returned, medics carefully transferred the pod into the Titan's medical bay. The chamber filled with soft white light as the lid slowly lifted. The man inside gasped, drawing his first breath in centuries. His eyes opened, gray, sharp, and disoriented. He looked around in confusion, then focused on Mara. You're human," he whispered, his voice weak but full of disbelief. "Yes," Mara replied. "You're safe. You've been asleep for a long time." He struggled to sit up. "Where's the fleet?" "The Ark project, did it work?" Grant and Mara exchanged glances. "What project?" she asked. The man looked horrified. "We built this place. It wasn't meant to die. It was meant to protect what was left of us. The first colonies, the archives, the seed vaults. We called it Haven." The word hit Mara like a pulse. Haven. A myth whispered in human archives about a hidden fortress where humanity preserved its knowledge after the fall. No one had ever found it until now, but the man's next words froze everyone. "If you're here, it means they found us," he said, his voice breaking. "The Council. They tried to erase us once. They'll try again." Before anyone could answer, the Titan's alarms blared. Sensors screamed with new readings, warp breaches opening all around them. Dozens of Council warships dropped out of fold space, their weapons hot. The trap had been waiting, Grant swore under his breath. "They followed us all the way here." Mara's calm never cracked. She turned to the comm officer. "Open a channel." Admiral Audrin's face appeared again, lit by the cold glow of his bridge. "You've gone too far, Commander. This place is under Council jurisdiction. You are ordered to withdraw immediately." Mara's gaze was steady. "Jurisdiction?" she repeated softly. "Over human graves?" Audrin hesitated just long enough for his guilt to show. "Those ruins were sealed for a reason. You shouldn't have come." "Then you know what's here," Mara said. "You knew about Haven." The Admiral's silence confirmed everything. Mara turned to her crew. "Signal the fleet." Defensive positions. No fire unless fired upon. As the humans prepared for what might be their first true confrontation, the cryo survivor looked out at the fleet beyond the window. His eyes filled with awe. "So, We made it, he whispered. Humanity didn't die after all. Mara looked back at him, her voice quiet but unshakable. No, she said. We learned to endure. And now, Admiral, the galaxy will remember what it tried to forget. Outside, the Council fleet began to close in, their weapons locking onto targets. But the humans stood unafraid, their ships glowing brighter against the darkness of the forgotten sector. Haven's ruins hummed faintly, ancient systems flickering awake after centuries of silence. And somewhere deep within that ancient shell, an old machine stirred, its sensors detecting life again, its power grid crawling back to life. The stars trembled, as if the galaxy itself was preparing to witness something impossible once more. The Council ships surrounded Haven, their hulls glowing like knives against the void. The broken fragments of the Dyson shell reflected the light, creating a cold halo around the battlefield. Static filled the comms. The Titan fleet held their line unmoving, shields shimmering faintly like 1,000 ripples on a frozen sea. Humanity's rebirth was standing between a dead civilization and a council that had ruled through fear for too long. Commander Mara Ikeda watched the tactical display as red dots multiplied. The council wasn't bluffing this time. 300 warships, Grant said under his breath. And they're not retreating. Of course they're not, Mara replied quietly. They can't afford to lose this battle. Not against ghosts. The man from the cryopod, Elias Ward according to his recovered ID, stood beside her, still weak but alert. His gray eyes darted across the screens, disbelief mixing with grief. So it's true, he murmured. They erased us from history. Everything we built turned into rumor. Mara nodded slowly. We survived their silence. Now we survive their fear. The fleet waited. The galaxy held its breath. Admiral Audrin's face appeared again, projected in shimmering blue light across the Titan's bridge. His expression was iron. Commander Ikeda, you are trespassing on Council territory, harboring restricted technology, and violating interstellar law. You will surrender the Haven construct immediately or face removal by force. Mara didn't move. You mean destruction by fear? Audrin's tone hardened. You have 30 seconds to comply. Grant's hands clenched on the console. Commander, they're powering up main batteries across the fleet. Mara stared at the holographic map. They wouldn't dare fire first. Elias stepped forward, his voice hoarse. They will. Haven isn't just a ruin, it's proof. Proof they lied. They can't let anyone know. The timer hit 0. The first council volley roared across the void. Hundreds of energy beams cutting through the dark like fire raining from gods. They struck the Titan's shield wall and scattered into dazzling light, painting the shattered Dyson sphere in gold. The human fleet absorbed the entire attack without flinching. Grant's voice was calm. Minimal shield loss. They don't have the power to break us. Good, Mara said softly. Let them learn. The Titan's main cannon bays opened, exposing the bright inner glow of plasma cores. The rest of the human fleet mirrored the movement, silent, disciplined, precise. But Mara didn't give the order to fire, not yet. Instead, she sent a single transmission on all channels. Her voice echoed across the galaxy. This is Commander Mara Ikeda of the United Earth Fleet. We do not come as conquerors. We come as witnesses. The Council erased our history, but not our strength. You fear the truth, and that is why you attack. But the age of silence is over. Her words carried into every system, bouncing across comm relays and open networks. People from dozens of species heard her voice. Miners, soldiers, scholars. Some trembled, some smiled. Humanity was no longer a whisper. It was real again. Audrin's face twisted in anger. End transmission. All ships concentrate fire on the Titan. The second barrage came harder, more desperate. The Titan's shields glowed brighter, pushing back with bursts of light that shattered the darkness. One human ship, the Vigilant, took a direct hit to its flank. Its hull buckled, lights flickering, but it didn't retreat. Instead, it steadied itself and transmitted a single line across the fleet. For Earth, for truth. Commander, Grant said softly, the Vigilant is holding but losing power fast. Mara looked up. Move the horizon to cover them. No ship falls alone. The horizon slid forward, positioning itself like a shield between its wounded sister and the Council's next strike. The Council ships kept firing, but their shots weakened, their formation breaking apart. Fear was spreading faster than orders. Elias stared at the chaos unfolding outside. They're not used to fighting something that doesn't play by their rules. Mara gave a faint smile. That's humanity's oldest strength. Then the readings changed. Deep within Haven, something began to awaken. Energy surged across the broken fragments of the Dyson shell. Ancient power conduits flickered to life, sending waves of golden light through the debris. The old systems had recognized human biosignatures, reactivating after centuries of silence. Grant looked at the display, eyes wide. Commander, the structure's powering up on its own. Massive energy buildup inside the core. Elias took a step forward, his voice trembling. That's the failsafe. The core was designed to shield Haven if it was ever attacked. Shield? Grant asked. Elias hesitated. Or cleanse. A deep hum filled the void. The Dyson fragment began to spin slowly, fragments locking into alignment. Beams of light burst outward, striking the Council fleet with blinding precision, not as weapons, but as pulses of EMP. Their ships flickered, shields collapsing, comms cutting out. One by one, the Council vessels went dark, drifting powerless in the cold. Mara stared in awe. It's protecting us. Elias nodded weakly. It remembers who its creators were. The Titan fleet held position, letting the light wash over them harmlessly. When the brilliance faded, the battlefield fell into silence. The Council's mighty armada floated aimlessly, systems disabled, engines dead. Humanity had not fired a single shot. Mara ordered open comms again. To every listening world, this is what power looks like when it serves peace. Remember this day not for destruction but for restraint. Odrin's transmission flickered weakly, his voice full of disbelief. You could have wiped us out. Mara's eyes softened. Yes, and that's why we won't. Tell your council humanity has returned. Not to rule, but to remind the galaxy what justice feels like. The Titan fleet slowly turned away, leaving the disabled Council armada behind. Below, Haven's fragments continued to glow, slowly stabilizing under the watch of their makers. Elias stood beside Mara, looking at the stars. We built this to save ourselves, he said quietly. But maybe it was waiting to save all of you. Mara nodded. Then let's finish what they started. As the fleet vanished into fold space, Haven pulsed one last time, sending a single encrypted message across the galaxy. It carried humanity's oldest words, "We endure," and every civilization that received that signal understood what it meant. Humanity was no longer the lost species of legend. They were awake, and the galaxy would never sleep the same again.